Happy New Year to you. Welcome back to Monthly Musings, a space where you and I can walk through the things that we've been wondering about this month at greater depth. This space is about sharing ideas and visions in hopes that you are encouraged to embrace a new relationship with yourself, your world, time, and the ideologies that tend to govern our society in the most uncreative and unfortunate ways. January's Wednesday Wonderings were focused on growth, the conditions under which it happens, and the home that you build for that work, your container. I want to start the year unpacking this specifically because it was one of the more difficult impasses that I have watched individuals and teams alike struggle to surmount. We sincerely want systems in our futures to change, and we severely underestimate the role of our individual growth journeys as the bedrock of those systems change processes. And when I say we, I mean we. This is a human struggle made worse by the way in which toxic capitalism, racism, etc., sometimes quietly but always insidiously disempowers us. Let me not get on that TED Talk yet. Remind me another time. I want to back up and share more about what I mean when I talk about a container. Like everything related to cultural reimagination, which is what we do at Culture Kinesis, your container is a liberatory tool. It is not meant to suppress, seal off, or limit you. It's also not a hiding place. Rather, it is designed by you to protect and preserve you as you lead your own growth process. It's like that stage in a dandelion's life cycle when the leaves pull in that yellow flower and prepare it to reemerge as the white fluffy version, which is our favorite at Culture Kinesis. That yellow flower is being contained in a particular way while it transforms and prepares for the next era of its existence. Similarly, your container is meant to contain your current self in conditions that will empower you to transform into your aspirational self. You know how we hear about spaces referred to as climate controlled? Well, think of this as a culture controlled space, where the culture is set to the exact right temperature to grow you, your own private greenhouse. P.S. At Culture Kinesis, we are partial to the verb definition of culture, which is to maintain in conditions suitable for growth. Hold that in mind. Now, here goes the fun part. Container building is a creative process. Your container can look any way you choose. My container is a glass mason jar. This necessitates that I treat it preciously and that I'm never careless with it. It's pretty big so that I won't lose it as I live this digital nomad life, which can get chaotic, but also so that I don't overlook it and forget that it's available to me. I can screw the lid off and on, which allows me to be discerning about what and whom I let in or out. I can see outside from inside, and folks can see me, but I choose which reality I want to be located in at any given moment. Its glass sides allow for my growth to be public and observable, as a reminder to others that we do not need to hide while in the growth process. My container's official name is Rachel's Home for Elegant Disruption, Reimagination, and Liberation. It is my home for my favorite self, which also happens to be my artist self. Stay tuned. I'm excited to introduce you to her soon. Let's talk about why this matters. Any and all spaces are containers, just as any and all spaces have a culture. The key is assessing what foundation underlies the container, what informs it, be it a workplace, classroom, etc. As Bell Hooks teaches, we exist within a larger, quote, capitalistic, patriarchal, white supremacist imperialist container that is reinforced and upheld by those invested in the maintenance of the status quo and those of us conditioned to participate in it. As such, we have to create our own containers for liberation. Toxic ideologies have never and will never give us that permission. I shared in this year's first Wednesday Wondering that my container needed reinforcement and renovation. That's true, but it's also true that having established my own container guided me to understand that I need to exercise greater discernment about the containers that I enter that are of someone else's making. I asked you 3 questions this month. Number 1, what are the conditions under which your growth happens? Number 2, how does your container support your growth? And lastly, what is your relationship with growth? Let's tackle that first question. What are the conditions under which your growth happens? Your container grounds you in the self you are becoming. It allows for self-acceptance, but also perspective of what is on the horizon for you. Sit with this question. How often do we have permission to move through the world as though it is okay to be in progress? What do we and everyone else lose when we are expected to pretend that we have arrived and that there is no more personal growth we should focus on? Lastly, what is the cost of that level of dishonesty and self-unawareness? My container is a space of present idealism and future reality. The self that I am becoming is a current fiction. She's a figment of my imagination, and yet I fully intend to witness her introduction into reality eventually. We must remember that growth happens when you authentically invite it in, or rather when you invite yourself into it, into your container. That second question, what is your relationship with growth? When I make it fashionable to grow and to be in progress and to aspire, my quote, not yet self is in no way an enemy or a threat to my aspirational self. They're partners and they hold hands along this journey. When I have crafted a home for my aspirational self and also my favorite self and also my present self, I'm equipped to acknowledge, 1, who I have been, 2, recognize who I am now, and 3, renegotiate who I aspire to be. Liberation ain't free, and most of these systems really don't want that life for you, especially folks who hold marginalized identities. There is readiness to resist, and then there is being equipped for the resistance. Your container is one of your most critical pieces of equipment. Take your time in constructing it. Third question, what is your relationship with growth? My container allows me to be on my own team so that I can team up with others. If I can't be honest with and loving toward myself, how can I hope to meet others in that place? If I don't invest in building a home where I can grow, how can I expect to create spaces for others' growth? We have to take so seriously that all of who we are and what we have experienced shapes how we show up in the present every day. There is no transformation of systems divorced from individual growth. We must start with ourselves. In their book, Emergent Strategy, Adrienne Marie Brown shares this, quote, transform yourself to transform the world. They continue and say, this doesn't mean to get lost in the self, but rather to see our own lives and work and relationships as a front line, a first place we can practice justice, liberation, and alignment with each other and the planet. There is power and necessity and beauty in starting with yourself. Now listen here, crafting a container does not mean everything goes smoothly from here on out. Don't tell nobody I said that. I didn't say that to you. It is your cultural realm, the space that you hold so that you can maintain yourself in conditions suitable for growth. I've been saying that mine needed serious renovation. I'm not that many steps ahead of you, trust me. Stay tuned, we'll walk together, and I'll show you the updated floor plan soon.